You know those cute little Find My notifications your iPhone sends when your husband leaves his expensive watch at a Chicago hotel instead of the Miami resort where he's supposedly closing the biggest deal of his career? Yeah, those aren't actually designed for catching cheaters, but they sure are effective. 3 days. That's how long Otto had been gone on this career-defining business trip to Miami. 3 days of him sending me beach photos with corporate buildings strategically positioned in the background. 3 days of missing you texts that arrived with suspicious timing. 3 days of me believing my husband was actually where he said he was. Until Harper Donovan's comment appeared beneath my post-workout selfie at Elite Fitness in our upscale Brookline neighborhood. Wait, isn't that your husband in the background of my dinner pic from Gibson's Steakhouse in Chicago last night? With the redhead? Harper, bless her perfectly contoured face and chronic inability to mind her own business, had inadvertently shattered the designer glass house I'd been living in for 8 years. She'd even tagged me in her own photo, a masterpiece of social media destruction that showed Otto feeding grilled shrimp to a woman who definitely wasn't his interior designer wife. I stared at my phone screen so long, the automatic lock kicked in 3 times. Chicago, not Miami, with a woman whose hair color could only be described as Mistress Red. When I finally managed to unfreeze my fingers, I did what any rational woman would do. I called the Fontainebleau Miami Beach where Otto was supposedly staying. "I'm so sorry, we don't have any reservation under Otto Fleming," the cheerful receptionist informed me, probably while gazing at actual Miami sunshine. "Maybe it's under Fleming Designs?" I suggested, naming his marketing company. "I've checked all our incoming guests for the week, ma'am. No Fleming in any variation." That's when I remembered the Apple Watch I'd given Otto for Christmas, the one synced to my account for emergencies. Within 30 seconds, I confirmed what Harper's photo had already told me. My husband was approximately 1,380 miles northwest of where he claimed to be. In our renovated colonial in Brookline's most sought-after neighborhood, I sat in the custom Scandinavian chair that Otto had complained cost too much, wearing the Lululemon leggings he'd bought to support my fitness journey. Translation: subtle hint I should lose the 10 pounds I'd gained while supporting his career. And made a decision. I wouldn't just get mad, or even. I'd get everything. You see, before becoming Otto Fleming's wife and chief career cheerleader, I was Mireille Beaumont, digital marketing strategist with a specialty in crisis management and a talent for turning disasters into opportunities. I'd surrendered that career when Otto's company took off, a temporary pause that had stretched into 8 years of me arranging our home and life while he arranged multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns. Our recent move from Manhattan to Boston had been pitched as a fresh start, his company expanding, my chance to finally open the interior design business I'd been planning for years. After supporting Otto through business school, 3 startups, and countless networking events that ran mysteriously late, it was supposed to be my turn. The irony wasn't lost on me that my expertise in reputation management would now be used to systematically dismantle one. His. I spent the next hour investigating rather than crying. A quick check of our joint credit card revealed charges at the Langham Chicago, Gibson's Steakhouse, and, this was rich, a $419 purchase at Agent Provocateur. Nothing screams legitimate business expense, like high-end lingerie. Next, I pulled up Otto's company website and scrutinized their client list. No Miami hotel chains, no Florida connections whatsoever. But prominently displayed among their Chicago clients? Wade Innovations, a major competitor in the digital marketing space run by Stella Wade, Otto's college classmate who'd always looked at him with what I'd naively labeled professional admiration. A LinkedIn search confirmed my suspicion. Stella Wade, CEO of Wade Innovations, Harvard Business School graduate, recently divorced, and, according to her Instagram that I was now frantically scrolling through, a natural blonde who'd gone autumn red 8 weeks ago. By the time I'd finished my investigation, night had fallen in Brookline. Otto had texted that his meetings ran late, and he'd call in the morning. I responded with a cheerful, "Miss you? Bring me something from South Beach," followed by a beach umbrella emoji. Then I opened a bottle of the Veuve Clicquot we'd been saving for special occasions, and began planning. The beauty of being married to someone in digital marketing is understanding exactly how to destroy them in the digital space. The problem with being married to someone like Otto is that he'd always underestimated me, viewing my design skills as decorative rather than strategic, my social media expertise as cute rather than powerful. He'd forgotten I was the one who'd built his first company website, developed his initial marketing plan, and edited the TEDx talk that put him on the map. Before becoming Mrs. Fleming, I'd orchestrated viral campaigns that had quadrupled client conversions. I'd sacrificed my career for his success, and now he was sacrificing our marriage for what? A fling with Stella Wade? A corporate merger? Both? By midnight, I'd crafted a 3-phase plan that would make any revenge movie protagonist proud. By 2 a.m., I'd implemented Phase 1, digital reconnaissance. Using Otto's passwords, still Otto Mireille 2015 on most accounts, another sign he underestimated me, I accessed his email, finding dozens of exchanges with Stella that evolved from professional to personal to explicit. More damning were the attachments, proprietary campaign strategies from his current clients being shared with her company. I downloaded everything, backing it up to 3 separate secure clouds, not just evidence of his infidelity, but of corporate espionage that would violate about 15 clauses in his employment contract. Phase 2 required waiting for his return, scheduled for tomorrow evening. He'd texted his flight details, punctual to a fault. Otto would land at Logan International at 5:47 p.m., claiming exhaustion from closing the deal in Miami. I allowed myself exactly 15 minutes to cry in the bathroom, timing it precisely with my iPhone, before washing my face, applying an overnight serum, and climbing into our king-sized bed. Tomorrow, Otto Fleming would come home to champagne, candles, and the warm welcome of a wife who'd spent the day redecorating their bedroom with framed evidence of betrayal. As I drifted off to sleep, clutching my phone with all its incriminating screenshots, I couldn't help thinking, for a man who'd built his career on image management, Otto was about to experience the most spectacular reputation collapse since WeWork's Adam Neumann, but without the golden parachute. The best part? He wouldn't see it coming until it was trending on Twitter. The morning after my discovery, I woke up with the kind of clarity that only comes from having your entire life implode spectacularly. While most Brookline housewives were posting their Peloton stats and meal prep containers, I was arranging evidence of my husband's betrayal like I was curating the world's most devastating museum exhibit. "Welcome to the Otto Fleming Gallery of Deception," I whispered to myself, carefully printing and framing screenshots of his text messages, where every piece tells the story of a man who couldn't keep his ambition in his pants. My first masterpiece, an enlarged 16:20 print of Harper's Instagram photo, now prominently displayed above our bed. Nothing says "sweet dreams" like your husband feeding grilled shrimp to another woman. I spent the morning transforming our bedroom into what I'd later call modern American infidelity, a striking collection featuring hotel receipts from the Langham, Chicago, arranged in a tasteful collage, email exchanges with Stella printed on linen paper and displayed in floating frames, and, my personal favorite, the agent provocateur receipt mounted next to our wedding photo. By noon, I'd moved on to Phase 3 of my plan, strategic alliance building. First call, Vanessa Whitman, Otto's assistant who'd always treated me with a mix of pity and deference. "Vanessa, it's Mireille Fleming," I said when she answered. "Quick question. What's the status of Otto's meetings in Miami?" A pause. "Miami?" She sounded genuinely confused. "Mr. Fleming is in Chicago with Ms. Wade from Wade Innovations. They're working on the potential merger." Merger? I kept my voice neutral, a skill perfected from years of listening to Otto's clients explain why they needed their logos to be more blue, but not blue. "Oh." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I thought you knew. Fleming Designs is being acquired by Wade Innovations. It's been in the works for months." Months. While I'd been scouting locations for my design studio in Boston, my husband had been planning to sell his company to his college crush-turned-competitor, the same company I'd helped him build. "Of course I knew," I lied smoothly, just checking if there were any updates. "And Vanessa? Thanks for always being so professional." Next call, Diane Jacobson, the firm's legal counsel who'd once confided at the holiday party that her husband had pulled something similar before their divorce. "Diane, it's Murray. I need a recommendation for a divorce attorney. Today." Finally figured out Chicago wasn't a business trip? Her voice held no surprise. "You knew?" "Honey, the whole office knows. We just couldn't figure out how to tell you." By 2 p.m., I'd spoken with Otto's business partner, Marcus, who confirmed the merger had been negotiated behind his back, too. I'd contacted a forensic accountant who specialized in hidden assets, and I'd secured Boston's most ruthless divorce attorney for a 4 p.m. meeting. But my most productive call was to Trevor Walsh, the investigative reporter who'd once profiled Otto for Boston Business Quarterly. Trevor had always flirted with me at company events, much to Otto's annoyance. "Murray Fleming," he answered. "To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? How interested would you be in a story about corporate espionage, an undisclosed merger, and the CEO who's sleeping with his competitor while selling out his partners and clients?" The silence on the line lasted precisely 3 seconds. "I'll be at your place in 30 minutes. While waiting for Trevor, I gave myself a pep talk in our kitchen. The kitchen Otto had complained was unnecessarily expensive, despite the fact that his one culinary accomplishment was making toast without burning it. "You are not a victim," I told my reflection in our sub-zero refrigerator door. "You are the protagonist in the greatest comeback story since Apple rehired Steve Jobs." At exactly 2:45 p.m., Trevor arrived with the hungry look journalists get when they smell career-making exposé. I laid out the evidence methodically, watching his eyes widen with each new revelation. "Otto's been sharing proprietary client information with Wade Innovations for months," I explained, showing him the emails. "That's not just unethical, it's illegal, and his partners have no idea he's selling the company." Trevor whistled. "This would destroy his reputation in the industry." "That's the general idea," I smiled. "But there's a catch. I need this story ready to run tomorrow evening, and I need your word that you'll wait for my signal before publishing." "Why the specific timing?" "Because Otto lands at 5:47 p.m., and I want our reunion to be memorable." After Trevor left with copies of everything, I attended my meeting with Catherine Mercer, divorce attorney extraordinaire, who looked at my evidence and actually slow-clapped. "In 15 years of practice, I've never seen a wife this prepared," she said, reviewing my documentation. "Most come in with mascara-stained tissues and iPhone screenshots. You've built a case the CIA would envy." I smiled. I used to manage crises for a living. Now I'm creating one. By evening, I'd prepared everything. Legal paperwork ready for filing, digital evidence secured on multiple platforms, and a devastatingly effective social media strategy that would activate the moment Otto walked through our door. I'd also redecorated our entryway with what I called the Wall of Lies, a timeline of Otto's business trips over the past year, with his claimed locations juxtaposed against his actual whereabouts, verified through credit card statements and location data. For dinner, I ordered his favorite meal from Duzave, the overpriced French restaurant where he'd proposed, and chilled a bottle of Dom Perignon, the ultimate Last Supper. As I lit candles throughout our home, my phone pinged with Otto's just landed text. Like clockwork, he added, "Can't wait to see you, babe. Bringing you something special from Miami." I responded with a heart emoji and, "I have something special for you too. Hurry home." The last piece of my preparation was changing into the red Valentino dress Otto had given me for our anniversary, the one he said made me look almost as good as when we first met. I paired it with the Louboutins he insisted I wear whenever his business associates came over, claiming they made me look sophisticated. Tonight would be my final performance as Mrs. Otto Fleming. Supportive wife, gracious hostess, and living background decoration in the Otto show. I poured myself a glass of champagne and raised a toast to our wedding photo. "Here's to strategic exits," I murmured, "and to men who forget that the woman behind them might one day decide to stop pushing and start pulling the rug instead." The Uber app showed Otto was 15 minutes away. I took a deep breath, checked my reflection, and practiced my most convincing smile, the same one I'd perfected during countless client dinners where I'd listened to men explain my former profession to me. In the distance, a car door slammed. Game time. As headlights swept across our living room, my phone suddenly lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Fleming, this is Stella Wade. We need to talk immediately. Otto told me everything. About the evidence. About your plan. He's not coming home alone tonight." I froze, champagne glass midair, as another text appeared. "I'm in the car with him. And trust me, we've prepared a countermove you never saw coming." The sound of not one but two car doors slamming outside sent my heart into a tailspin, worthy of a Boston Dynamics robot malfunction. This was not part of my meticulously crafted plan. Otto wasn't supposed to bring reinforcements, especially not in the form of his mistress/business partner. I quickly pulled up the security camera feed on my phone. There they were, Otto in his travel-rumpled Tom Ford suit and Stella Wade herself, flame-red hair gleaming under our porch light, wearing what looked suspiciously like the missing $419 from Agent Provocateur. Adapt or die, I whispered to myself, the mantra I'd used during every marketing crisis I'd ever managed. I quickly texted Trevor, "Execute Plan B, immediately." Then I deleted Stella's texts, straightened my shoulders, and prepared to face not just my husband, but his accomplice. The key turned in the lock as I positioned myself exactly as originally planned. Champagne in hand, evidence wall fully visible. The only difference? My free hand now hovered over the send button on an email that would blast Otto's corporate espionage evidence to every client, partner, and industry connection in my contact list. "Honey, I'm home," Otto called out, his voice carrying that particular Boston trying to sound like Manhattan inflection he'd adopted since we'd moved. "And I've brought company." When they rounded the corner, I had the distinct pleasure of watching confidence drain from not one but two faces as they registered. One, me in the red dress. Two, champagne and candles. And three, most importantly, the wall behind me showcasing Otto's Chicago adventure in high-resolution glory. What is all this?" Otto's voice cracked like a teenager asking someone to prom. "Welcome home exhibition," I replied, gesturing with my champagne flute. "I call it the Emperor's New Infidelity. Do you both like the curation?" Stella stepped forward, her composure recovering faster than Otto's. "Mrs. Fleming, Ms. Beaumont works fine now," I interrupted. "I've already started the paperwork." "Look," Stella said, adopting what I recognized as her TED Talk voice from the videos I'd studied last night. "This is obviously upsetting, but there's a professional way to handle this. The merger benefits everyone." "Fascinating perspective from someone wearing lingerie my husband bought with our joint credit card," I observed, taking a deliberate sip of Dom Perignon. "Is corporate espionage also handled professionally at Wade Innovations?" Otto's head snapped toward me. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, I think you know," I said, pressing the send button on my phone. A satisfying whoosh sound confirmed delivery. "But in case your memory is as selective as your honesty, I've just refreshed it for all your clients and partners." Otto lunged for my phone, but I sidestepped with the precision of someone who'd been anticipating this exact move. Too late. Unlike your business ethics, this transmission cannot be reversed. That's when the twist I hadn't anticipated in all my careful planning occurred. Instead of panicking, Stella laughed. A short, sharp sound that bounced off our vaulted ceiling like a warning shot. "You think we didn't prepare for this? Why do you think I texted you?" She pulled out her own phone. While Otto was busy feeling guilty, I was busy feeling pragmatic. "For every client you just contacted, I have documentation showing your involvement in every campaign strategy you just exposed." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. I've been out of the business for years." "Oh, not according to the email signature you never removed from the shared account you and Otto used for client communications," Stella countered. "As far as the legal record shows, you've been actively involved in every decision, including the ones you just blasted as corporate espionage." Otto stepped forward, his expression shifting from panic to something darker. "We were going to offer you a clean break, Mireille, a generous settlement. Now you've forced our hand." For the first time since discovering Harper's Instagram comment, I felt a flicker of genuine fear. Had I just implicated myself in the very crimes I was exposing? But then I remembered something crucial, something that had been nagging at the back of my mind since my conversation with Marcus. I squared my shoulders and smiled. Interesting theory. There's just one problem with your counterattack, Stella. I walked to our home bar and poured another glass of champagne. Otto never added me to the corporate structure of Fleming Designs. He always insisted it was cleaner, to keep me as an informal advisor. I turned to Otto, whose expression was rapidly cycling through confusion to realization to horror. Remember when Marcus asked you to add me to the company documents last year during the restructuring? You said it was unnecessary paperwork, since I was just helping with the aesthetic side of things. The color drained from Otto's face as he recognized his critical error. In his effort to minimize my contribution over the years, he'd inadvertently protected me from legal liability. That's why you've been so careful to keep my name off everything official, I continued, the pieces falling into place even as I spoke. You wanted the benefit of my expertise without giving me credit or equity. And now that same pattern of erasure is your undoing. Stella's confident smile faltered. Otto? It's a technicality, he stammered. We can still argue. We can argue many things, I agreed. But while you're arguing, North Shore Medical will be exercising their liquidated damages clause, and First National Bank will be triggering their confidentiality breach penalty, and Marcus will be filing his minority shareholder lawsuit. My phone began buzzing with incoming calls. Clients, partners, probably Otto's boss. I set it face down on the counter. Now here's what happens next, I said, switching into the crisis management voice I hadn't used professionally in 8 years. We negotiate, not from the position you planned when you brought Stella here to intimidate me, but from the reality of this moment. Otto collapsed onto our West Elm sofa. The one he'd complained was unnecessarily expensive, despite costing less than his monthly client entertainment budget. What do you want? He asked finally, defeat seeping into his voice like red wine on our white carpet at last year's Christmas party. Recognition, compensation, and consequences, in that order, I replied. 50% of the merger proceeds as acknowledgement of my role in building the company you're selling, public credit for my contributions to Fleming Designs, and a renegotiated deal that doesn't leave your partners blindsided. Stella, recovering her composure with admirable speed, stepped forward. And if we agree to these terms? Then tomorrow's headline changes from marketing CEO caught in web of corporate espionage and infidelity to a business profile about the merger, with appropriate credit given to all parties who built the company. You're bluffing, Otto said, but his voice lacked conviction. You don't have a reporter ready to... His sentence was cut short by his phone ringing. The caller ID displayed Trevor Walsh, Boston Business Quarterly. You were saying? I smiled. You have until 8 a.m. to decide whether you want to be remembered as a successful businessman who acknowledged all contributors to his success, or as Boston's most notorious example of corporate and marital fraud. The choice, as they say in all the client presentations you took credit for, is yours. As Otto and Stella huddled in our kitchen to make frantic calls, I sipped my champagne and admired my evidence wall with the satisfaction of an artist at a gallery opening. The real twist wasn't that I'd been betrayed. It was that after 8 years of being strategically erased, I was finally ready to sign my name to my own life, in permanent ink. And Boston's business world was about to discover that the woman behind the marketing genius had been the genius all along. The night progressed like the world's most awkward bed and breakfast stay, except instead of quaint countryside charm, we had metropolitan tension and receipts from the Langham Chicago taped to the refrigerator. Otto spent 3 hours on calls with Stella and their legal team, pacing our kitchen with the desperation of a man watching his carefully constructed house of cards collapse in 4K resolution. I lounged on our living room sofa, scrolling through Pinterest boards for my future design studio, while occasionally refilling my champagne. At 11:47 p.m. precisely, Otto emerged from his home office fortress, looking like he'd aged approximately 1 year per hour. We have a counteroffer, he announced, his voice hoarse. I'm listening. I didn't look up from my phone. 40% of the merger proceeds, public acknowledgement of your contribution to Fleming Designs, and a revised deal that gives Marcus and the other partners fair compensation. I finally raised my eyes. 40% is an interesting interpretation of the word half. Stella's team won't go higher. Otto loosened his collar like it was physically choking him. The deal collapses at 50. Then I guess Trevor's original headline runs at 8 a.m., I replied, returning to my Pinterest board labeled Post-Divorce Empire Building. Otto's face flushed the exact shade of the accent wall I'd painted in our dining room, the one he'd called aggressively burgundy, despite it being clearly oxblood. Fine, 50%. But I need something in writing from you guaranteeing no future legal action or public statements. I smiled with the serenity of someone who'd already won. I'll have Catherine drafted immediately. She's been on standby all night. By 2 a.m., documents were being exchanged between attorneys like playing cards in a high-stakes poker game. By 5 a.m., we had a comprehensive agreement that would make King Solomon proud in its division of assets. Except unlike the biblical baby, Fleming Designs was being split exactly in half. At 6:30 a.m., I texted Trevor. Alternative angle approved. Sending new materials. At 7:59 a.m., Boston Business Quarterly published, Breaking, Fleming Designs announces merger with Wade Innovations in industry-shaking deal. The revised article detailed how Fleming Designs, co-developed by marketing strategists Otto Fleming and Mireille Beaumont Fleming, was joining forces with Wade Innovations in a strategic alignment of complementary strengths. The piece highlighted my previously uncredited role in building the company and quoted Otto praising my foundational contribution to Fleming Designs' success. Words he'd never spoken voluntarily, now immortalized in digital print. By 9 a.m., my phone was exploding with notifications. Former colleagues expressing surprise and congratulations. Friends I hadn't heard from in years suddenly remembering my existence. And most satisfyingly, clients who'd always addressed emails to Otto despite my handling their accounts, now reaching out directly. At 10 a.m., I left Otto sleeping in our guest room and attended the emergency partners meeting he'd scheduled at Fleming Designs headquarters. The conference room fell silent as I entered, faces showing various combinations of surprise, confusion, and curiosity. "Good morning," I said, setting my portfolio on the table. Otto sends his regrets. He's feeling under the weather today. Fortunately, as the newly recognized co-founder of this company, I'm fully authorized to discuss the merger. Marcus, Otto's longest-standing business partner, recovered first. Mireille, what exactly is happening? What's happening, Marcus, is course correction. I opened my laptop and projected the revised merger agreement onto the wall screen. You'll notice several amendments to the original deal Otto negotiated. For the next hour, I walked them through the new terms. Increased equity for original partners, guaranteed positions in the merged company, and improved severance for those who preferred to exit. By the end, the tension had transformed into cautious optimism. "Why would Stella Wade agree to these terms?" asked Vanessa, Otto's assistant, who'd been more candid with me yesterday than in our 8 years of knowing each other. Because the alternative was a highly public scandal involving corporate espionage, misappropriated client information, and after-hours activities not covered by any business insurance policy I'm familiar with. I replied with a smile that concealed the steel beneath. By noon, the partners had unanimously approved the revised merger. By 1 p.m., I'd signed the final paperwork as Mireille Beaumont, co-founder, Fleming Designs. The hyphenated Fleming was already being phased out, like a seasonal color that had overstayed its welcome. At 2 p.m., I met Stella Wade for the first time. Not as Otto's wife, but as his business equal and her new partner. We sat across from each other at Cultivar, a restaurant equidistant from both our offices, sizing each other up like chess opponents at the beginning of a tournament. "This isn't how I imagined our first meeting," Stella said, her famous red hair arranged in the kind of power bob that required its own maintenance schedule. "I imagine expectations versus reality has been a theme for you lately," I replied, sipping my sparkling water with the calm of someone who'd already verified the bank transfer of my merger proceeds. "Otto said you were domestic." She tried to make it sound like an observation rather than the insult it was intended to be. "And he told me he was in Miami." I smiled. "I suppose we've all been operating on incomplete information." Something shifted in her expression, a flash of reluctant respect. "The revised deal is still profitable for Wade Innovations." "Of course it is." I didn't want to destroy the merger, Stella. I wanted recognition, compensation, and consequences in that order. And Otto? I considered the question while breaking a piece of artisanal bread that cost approximately what Otto used to allow me as a personal spending allowance each week. Otto gets what he's always wanted: freedom from the boring parts of his life, merger with the company he admires, and a relationship with the woman he's apparently been circling since Harvard. Minus about $20 million and whatever dignity he had left. Stella actually laughed, a genuine sound that suggested she might be more human than corporate algorithm. You're nothing like he described. That's the point, isn't it? He never really saw me, but now everyone else will. By 5 p.m., I was touring potential spaces in Boston's South End for my design studio. Not the little shop Otto had dismissed, but the headquarters of Beaumont Design Group, funded by my half of the merger proceeds. When I returned home at 7 p.m., Otto was packing his things under the watchful eye of my attorney, who was ensuring he took only what our agreement permitted. He looked up when I entered, his expression a complex mixture of resentment and something that might have been respect. "You could have destroyed everything," he said as he folded designer shirts I'd ironed for years. "Why didn't you?" "Because destroying is easy. Building is the real challenge." I leaned against the doorframe of what had become, overnight, my bedroom alone. "And unlike you, I don't confuse destruction with success." As Otto dragged his suitcases toward the door, he paused. "I underestimated you." "No, Otto. You misclassified me. I was never the supporting character in your story. You were a plot twist in mine." The door closed behind him with a satisfying click that sounded remarkably like the opening of a champagne bottle, the universal sound of celebration. 6 months can change everything, especially when those 6 months begin with exposing your cheating husband, claiming half his company, and reintroducing yourself to the world as the business strategist you always were beneath the supportive wife veneer. Today, as I cut the ribbon on the official opening of Beaumont Design Group's headquarters in Boston's South End, I couldn't help but appreciate the poetic symmetry of my life. 6 months ago, I was standing in my Brookline kitchen, discovering my husband's betrayal through an Instagram comment. Now, I was standing in my own design studio, surrounded by clients, supporters, and a waiting list that stretched into next year, to new beginnings that are actually just continuations of who we always were. I toasted, raising a glass of champagne that I'd paid for myself. "Thank you very much." The crowd applauded, a mix of former Fleming Designs clients who'd followed me, new connections made through the merger, and even Marcus and 2 other former partners who'd decided to invest in my venture rather than continue with the merged company. Someone who wasn't in attendance, Otto Fleming, currently living in Chicago with Stella Wade and, according to Boston's extremely efficient gossip network, already experiencing creative differences in both their professional and personal relationships. Turns out merging a company is easier than merging lives, especially when one party has a documented history of confusing partnership with person I stand in front of to block the spotlight. The merger itself had been a masterclass in corporate restructuring. Wade Fleming Strategic Partners was now the 3rd largest marketing agency in the Midwest, with offices in Chicago, Boston, and New York. My name remained on the door despite my daily absence, a constant reminder to Stella of the woman who'd rewritten her perfect acquisition narrative. I still owned my 50% stake in the company, but had negotiated a hands-off investor role that allowed me to focus on building Beaumont Design Group. The quarterly dividend checks provided a satisfying supplementary income to my rapidly growing design business, which, unlike my marriage, was built on a foundation of complete transparency and authentic relationships. The strangest outcome wasn't my professional renaissance, or even Otto's tarnished reputation among Boston's business elite. It was the unexpected friendship that had developed between me and Stella Wade. Our monthly investor meetings had evolved from tense standoffs to strategic collaborations, and eventually to something resembling mutual respect. Last month, she'd actually reached out for advice when Otto suggested moving in with her full-time. He says the commute from his place is inefficient for their relationship goals, she'd explained over drinks at Contessa. Translation: His lease is up and he doesn't want to pay Boston rent prices for a place he uses 3 days a month, I'd replied, signaling for another round. Stella had laughed with the freedom of someone who was beginning to see the punchline of a joke they'd previously missed. You were married to him for 8 years. Any advice? Just one. Get separate checking accounts. And when he says your home renovation ideas are unnecessarily complex, remind him that so was hiding a girlfriend in Chicago while claiming to be in Miami. The true victory wasn't financial, professional, or even emotional, though all three were undeniably satisfying. The real win was reclaiming the narrative of my own life. For 8 years, I'd allowed Otto to cast me as the supporting character in his success story, the loyal wife who'd given up her career to support his dreams, the design enthusiast who dabbled in pretty things while he built an empire. The irony, of course, was that I'd been integral to building that empire, developing strategies, managing client relationships, and creating the brand identity that made Fleming Designs stand out in a saturated market, all while being introduced at company events as Otto's wife, rather than Fleming Designs' co-founder. Now, as I surveyed my studio, with its carefully curated furniture, bold accent walls, including one in that aggressively burgundy oxblood, and waiting area stocked with magazines featuring my recent projects, I felt a completeness that no amount of marital stability could have provided. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor, the reporter who'd helped orchestrate my reinvention. Just got word Otto pitched a book about entrepreneurial disruption, working title, The Art of the Merger. Thought you'd appreciate the irony. I laughed so loudly that several heads turned in my direction, and for the first time in nearly a decade, I didn't immediately modulate my volume to accommodate someone else's comfort. The most valuable lesson from my marriage's spectacular implosion wasn't about infidelity or betrayal. It was about the danger of allowing someone else to define your worth, of accepting their valuation rather than setting your own price. Otto had valued me at 0 when calculating his future. I'd countered with 50% of everything and received exactly that. Not through emotional appeals or victimhood, but through strategic action and unwavering confidence in my own worth. As the celebration continued around me, I raised my glass one more time in a private toast. Here's to the women who discover they're worth twice what they've been told, and to the men foolish enough to leave the evidence in their work emails. Sometimes the most beautiful designs emerge from complete demolition, and sometimes the most successful mergers happen when you finally, completely, merge with the person you were always meant to be. You know that moment when you get uninvited from a wedding, but your fiancé still gets to be best man alongside his ex-girlfriend? Yeah, apparently that's what they call budget cuts in Texas suburbia. Spoiler alert, while he was busy playing happy couple with his ex in Napa Valley, I was busy making financial decisions he'd regret for years. I'm Joy Mitchell, 29 years old, marketing specialist in Austin, and the woman who just discovered that being the understanding fiancé was actually my worst career move yet. Friday morning, June 14th, 6:30 a.m. Troy Patterson, my fiancé of 8 months, boyfriend of 2 years, was already dressed, packed, and kissing my forehead like I'm his grandmother. Baby, you're honestly not missing anything. Just boring family stuff. Mostly speeches and photos. Right. Boring family stuff where he'd spend 48 hours standing next to Astrid Winters, his college sweetheart turned just a friend. The same Astrid who somehow became maid of honor for his cousin Simone's destination wedding. And Troy? Best man. Because the universe clearly majored in irony. The text from Simone had arrived 2 weeks earlier. Tuesday afternoon, right after my client presentation. Hey, Joy. So sorry, but we had to trim the guest list for budget reasons. Family only, basically. You understand, right? Family only. Except Troy wasn't technically family yet. But he made the cut. Me? The actual fiancé who'd helped him pick out that Tom Ford tuxedo? Expendable. I'd texted back, of course, no worries at all. Because here's what marketing professionals know. Never show your hand early. You smile, you wait, you strategize, then you strike when they're not looking. Troy had asked if I was okay with him still going. Over tacos at Torchy's, he'd even offered to skip it. But his eyes told a different story. He wanted to go, needed to go. And honestly, I wanted him to go too, because my gut was screaming that I needed to see what happened when Troy thought I wasn't watching. So Friday morning, I watched him load his car, garment bag with the tuxedo I'd helped select, Dior Sauvage cologne I'd bought him for Christmas, weekend bag packed for wine country. He left at 7:20. His Uber pulled away at 7:22. By 7:30, I was alone with my coffee and a decision to make. Troy had this old MacBook, silver 2015 model he'd replaced years ago, kept in the hall closet as backup storage. Funny thing about backup storage, people forget it's still synced to their iCloud. 8 a.m. I opened that laptop. Password 04M5. My birthday, April 15th. Almost made me feel guilty. Almost. 8:13 a.m. Messages loaded from iCloud. 8:15 a.m. First message from Astrid, dated January 3rd. Can't wait to catch up at the wedding. It's been too long, T. The thread went back 6 months. Not daily messages, but consistent. Every few days, sometimes more. Inside jokes, college memories, photos I'd never seen. Then in April, buried between casual conversation, Astrid. Honestly, I think about us sometimes. Wonder what would have happened if we'd tried harder. Troy. Same, but timing, you know. Life gets complicated. Astrid. Does it have to be? I kept scrolling. No explicit declarations, no inappropriate photos, just emotional infidelity delivered in careful, deniable doses. Every, you get me, and she doesn't understand, was another paper cut. May 17th. 6 weeks ago. Troy wrote, sometimes I think I'm with the wrong person for the right reasons. Does that make sense? Astrid replied, completely. Safety isn't the same as happiness, T. There it was. My fiancé had told his ex-girlfriend that I was safe, but not happy. 9 a.m. Troy's flight took off. I watched the airplane icon cross my tracking app. American Airlines to San Francisco, then a rental car to Napa. 9:07 a.m. I opened our Wells Fargo joint account. The romantic saving for our future account we'd opened 18 months ago. Current balance, $43,000. Then I started scrolling transaction history. Something caught my eye. For 8 months straight, Troy had been making matching deposits and transfers. He'd deposit his paycheck contribution into our joint account, then immediately transfer $500 out to a separate savings account. His name only. An account I'd never heard of. Quick math. 8 months times 500 equals $4,000. Money that technically came from our shared finances, just recycled through his personal account. Half of those contributions, $2,000, came from my side of our joint deposits. I pulled up my contribution records. 18 months of deposits. My total, $21,500. Exactly half of everything in that account. 9:45 a.m. I called Wells Fargo, verified my identity, asked about withdrawal policies for joint accounts. The representative was cheerful. Yes, ma'am. With your name on the account, you're authorized to make any transaction up to the full balance. Just confirming, I said sweetly. Thank you. 10:30 a.m. I drove to the Wells Fargo branch on South Lamar. Wore my blazer and nice jeans. Professional. Calm. The kind of woman who knows exactly what she's doing. The banker, Patricia, smiled when I sat down. How can I help you? I need to transfer funds from my joint account to my individual Chase account. I slid my cards across her desk. $21,500. She processed it without blinking. 11 minutes total. Confirmation number appeared on the screen, then my phone. Balance transferred. $21,500. Zero remaining in joint account. $21,500. Perfectly fair, perfectly legal, perfectly mine. 11:15 a.m. Home Depot. 20 cardboard boxes, packing tape, bubble wrap. $63 total. 1 p.m. I started packing. Methodically. My clothes, my books, my kitchen equipment. The throw pillows I'd bought because Troy's decorating aesthetic was frat house minimalism. Plants I'd kept alive for 2 years. Photos of my family. I left everything of his. The apartment could stay exactly how he wanted it. Boring, beige, and entirely his financial problem. 3:45 p.m. Last box loaded in my car. I stood in the living room one final time. 14 months of shared space. Sunday dinners. Movie nights. The place where I'd actually believed we were building something real. I walked to the kitchen table, pulled out a note card, wrote in neat handwriting, Troy. Since the apartment lease is solely in your name, I'm returning it entirely to you. My monthly contribution of $100 ends today. Rent is $1,150 a month. I'm confident you'll manage. Also, I withdrew my half from our joint account. Check the balance when convenient. Enjoy Napa. Joy. Propped it against the salt shaker. Left my key on top. 4 p.m. I drove to the East Side studio I'd viewed 3 months ago. Near Muller Development. Hardwood floors, big windows, tiny balcony overlooking downtown. $750 monthly. The landlord, a retired teacher named Mrs. Caldwell, met me with the lease. You said you might need it eventually. Glad I held it. I'd paid the deposit 3 months prior. Before the wedding drama. Before finding any messages. Just insurance. Because my instincts had been whispering warnings even then. 6 p.m. Unpacking in my new place, solo, free, $21,500 richer. My phone buzzed. Troy, from Napa. Just got to the hotel. This place is gorgeous. Wish you were here. I typed back, have the best time. You deserve it. Because he absolutely did deserve everything coming his way. Saturday, June 15th. While Troy was living his best rom-com life in Napa Valley, I was discovering that freedom tastes a lot like overpriced coffee from Joe's on South Congress. 9 a.m. I woke up in my new studio. Sunlight streaming through windows that were mine, in a space where nobody had secret bank accounts or ex-girlfriends on speed dial. The silence was gorgeous. No Troy humming off-key in the shower. No Troy leaving cabinets open. No Troy existing. I grabbed my phone. Troy's Instagram story from last night showed the rehearsal dinner. Long tables draped in white linen, string lights, vineyard views that screamed, "We spent your annual salary on appetizers." And there, right in the center of frame, Troy in a navy suit, Astrid in a dusty rose dress, laughing at something with their heads tilted toward each other. The caption, "Reunion vibes with the best people." I screenshot it, added it to a folder I'd started on my laptop titled, Evidence of Poor Life Choices. 10 a.m. My phone rang. Unknown Austin number. Joy, hi, this is Patricia from Wells Fargo. The banker from yesterday. Her voice had that careful, professional tone people use when delivering news. I'm calling because there was some unusual activity on your joint account this morning that I thought you should know about. But my coffee stopped halfway to my mouth. Activity? Mr. Patterson attempted to make a withdrawal of $15,000 at 9 a.m. this morning, Texas time. The transaction was declined due to insufficient funds. She paused. He called our customer service line quite upset. They explained that a large withdrawal was made Friday by the other account holder, that's you, which left his requested amount unavailable. I smiled into my coffee. 9 in the morning. Troy had woken up early in Napa Valley, 7 a.m. Pacific, probably trying to pull cash before anyone noticed, maybe planning some grand gesture to impress Astrid, and discovered his safety net had vanished. I see. And the current balance? $21,500. Your withdrawal yesterday was completely legitimate. I just wanted to make sure you were aware he'd tried to access funds. Thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate you calling. Of course. Enjoy? Between us? Good for you. I hung up and laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my empty studio. Troy had tried to pull 15 grand, probably to look impressive in front of Astrid, maybe pay for some ridiculous romantic gesture, and discovered the well had run dry. 11 a.m. Text from Troy. Hey, can you call me when you get a chance? Something weird with the bank? I texted back. In yoga class. Talk later? I was not in yoga class. I was at Target buying sheets that Troy had never touched, towels he'd never used, and a succulent that would outlive our relationship. 1 p.m. I met my best friend Marnie at Magnolia Cafe for lunch. Marnie's a lawyer, family law specifically, and the only person who'd known something was wrong before I did. You actually did it. She raised her mimosa. You moved out and withdrew my half of our savings. I clinked my glass against hers. All $21,500 of it. Legally yours, morally justified, emotionally satisfying. Marnie grinned. So what's the plan? Just ghost him? Oh no. Ghosting is for people who owe you nothing. Troy owes me an explanation, an apology, and approximately 14 months of wasted time I'll never get back. I pulled out my phone, showed her the screenshots of messages between Troy and Astrid. I'm documenting everything. Timeline, amounts, conversations. Marnie's lawyer brain kicked in. Joint account, both names. You withdrew your exact contribution. That's airtight. Apartments in his name only. You gave written notice of departure. Messages prove emotional affair, but no grounds for him to claim anything. She looked up. Joy, you could destroy him with this. I know. I took a long sip of mimosa. I'm just deciding how public the destruction should be. 3 p.m. Back at my studio, I started building the PowerPoint. Yes, a PowerPoint. Because if you're going to blow up someone's life, you might as well do it with proper citations and slide transitions. Slide 1. Why Joy wasn't at the wedding, a presentation. Slide 2. Timeline of relationship, 2 years, engaged 8 months. Slide 3. Screenshot of Simone's budget cuts text, dated May 28th. Slide 4. Instagram photos of Troy and Astrid from the rehearsal dinner. Slides 5 through 12. Selected screenshots of Troy and Astrid's messages, January through May, with dates and timestamps. Slide 13. Bank statement showing Troy's matching deposit and transfer pattern, depositing to joint account while simultaneously moving money to private savings. Slide 14. Joint account showing my total contributions, $21,500, and withdrawal date, June 14th. Slide 15. Photo of my apartment key and goodbye note. Slide 16. Questions? I saved it. Backed it up to 3 different cloud services. This wasn't revenge. This was documentation. There's a difference. 6 p.m. Troy called. I let it go to voicemail. Joy, hey, so something weird happened with our account and I can't reach you and I'm kind of freaking out because I needed to grab some cash for wedding stuff. And it says there's only $21,000 left, but there should be 43, and the bank is saying you made a withdrawal yesterday, which doesn't make sense because you would have told me, right? Can you just call me back? I'm in the middle of wedding stuff, but this is important. Okay. Love you. Call me. The panic in his voice was absolutely delicious, like biting into a perfectly ripe peach, if that peach was flavored with karmic justice. I texted back, sorry, phone died, bank stuff is fine, everything's exactly where it should be, enjoy the wedding. 7:30 p.m. Troy's Instagram story showed the wedding ceremony. Outdoor venue, sunset lighting, Astrid and Troy standing on opposite sides of the aisle holding bouquets and looking absolutely picture perfect. His caption, honor of my life being part of this day. The comments were full of heart emojis and you two look amazing responses. Nobody mentioned me. Why would they? I wasn't there. I'd been budget cut out of existence. I screenshot those too, added them to the presentation. Slide 17, the wedding I wasn't invited to. 9 p.m., group text from Troy's mom, Diane, to what appeared to be the entire Patterson family group chat. 43 people, including me. Diane, beautiful ceremony, so proud of Simone and Blake. And doesn't Troy look handsome next to Astrid? They always made such a lovely pair. I stared at that message for a full minute. Troy's own mother, publicly commenting on how lovely her son looked with his ex-girlfriend. In a group chat that included me, his actual fiancé. The responses rolled in. Troy's Aunt Linda. They really do. Some people are just meant to be. Troy's cousin Marcus. Troy and Astrid back together? Did I miss something? Simone, the bride. Just good friends. But they did crush the choreographed dance at the reception, haha. Choreographed dance. My fiancé and his ex-girlfriend had a choreographed dance at a wedding I wasn't invited to, and his mother was commenting about how lovely they looked, and absolutely nobody thought this was inappropriate. I took a screenshot. Slide 18. Family group chat confirmation that nobody respected this relationship. 10:15. I poured myself a glass of wine. The cheap kind, $7 from Trader Joe's, because I was now financially independent and could buy whatever wine I wanted without Troy commenting that we should invest in better bottles. My phone buzzed. Text from Troy. Can we please talk about the bank thing? I'm worried something got hacked. Me. Nothing got hacked. We can talk when you're back. Focus on the wedding. Troy. But Joy, I needed that money. Me. Needed it for what? 3 minutes passed. Then, never mind, we'll talk Monday. I smiled. He couldn't tell me what he needed $15,000 for because whatever it was, it involved impressing people at a wedding where his fiancée had been deliberately excluded. 11 p.m. One more Instagram story from Troy. The reception. Dance floor packed. Troy and Astrid in the center, clearly mid-choreographed routine, surrounded by cheering guests. His suit jacket was off, sleeves rolled up. Astrid was laughing, head thrown back. They looked like the stars of their own movie. The song tagged in the story, The Way You Look Tonight by Frank Sinatra. I sat there in my new studio, in my new life, watching my fiancé dance with his ex-girlfriend to a romantic classic while his entire family cheered them on. And you know what I felt? Nothing. No tears, no heartbreak. Just cold, calculated clarity. Because here's what Troy hadn't realized yet. He'd just given me ammunition. Every Instagram story, every family group chat message, every defensive "we'll talk later" text was another nail in a coffin he didn't even know he was building. Sunday morning would bring him home to an empty apartment. Monday morning would bring him the presentation. And the following hours? Those would bring him the understanding that the safe fiancé he'd taken for granted had a very creative definition of revenge. I finished my $7 wine and started planning slide 19. Sunday, June 16th. Troy's flight was scheduled to land at Austin Bergstrom at 7 p.m. I had exactly 10 hours to finalize my masterpiece. 8 a.m. I woke up to 17 new messages in the Patterson family group chat. Apparently, the wedding reception had been quite the event. Troy's Aunt Linda posted photos. Troy and Astrid cutting the cake together as best man and maid of honor. Troy and Astrid giving a joint toast. Troy and Astrid posing with Simone and Blake under string lights. In every single photo, they looked like the couple. Simone and Blake almost seemed like background characters in Troy and Astrid's reunion special. I scrolled through the comments. Troy's Uncle Richard. Beautiful couple. With a heart emoji pointed directly at a photo of Troy and Astrid. Troy's grandmother Dorothy. So wonderful to see Troy so happy. Astrid, dear, you look lovely. Not one person mentioned me. Not one person asked where I was. I'd been erased from the family narrative so completely that his grandmother was complimenting his ex-girlfriend in a group chat that included me. I screenshot everything. The presentation was now 23 slides. 9 a.m. I called Marnie. Please tell me you're not backing down, she answered. I need legal advice. Hypothetically, if someone were to share documentation of their failed relationship with their ex's family, could that be considered defamation? Is it true? Every word, every screenshot, every bank statement. Then it's not defamation, it's disclosure. You're not making false statements, you're providing facts. Marnie paused. Joy, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. Nothing unethical. Just radically honest communication. My favorite kind. Do it. 10:30 a.m. I opened the presentation again. Reviewed every slide. Checked every timestamp. Every amount, every detail. This needed to be airtight because Troy worked in finance and would absolutely try to find numerical errors to discredit everything else. Slide 24. I added the attempted withdrawal from Saturday. Screenshot of Patricia's call log with timestamp, notation of the declined $15,000 transaction at 7 a.m. Pacific Time. Slide 25. Calculation breakdown showing Troy's deposit and transfer pattern over 8 months, essentially recycling our joint contributions into his private fund while maintaining the appearance of equal partnership. The explanation was clear. Troy deposited his share into our joint account but immediately transferred $500 monthly to his secret savings. While technically his money, the pattern showed deliberate concealment and separate financial planning while claiming we were building a future together. Slide 26. Summary: financial deception, emotional infidelity, family complicity, and really terrible event planning. 11 a.m. I drove to FedEx office on Lamar, printed the presentation in full color. 26 pages, professional binding, 3 copies. One for me, one for my records, one for dramatic effect if needed. Total cost, $42, worth every penny. Noon. Back at my studio, I converted the presentation to PDF, created a shareable link, wrote the message I'd send to the family group chat. Draft 1. Hi everyone. Since there seemed to be confusion about why I wasn't at the wedding, here's a comprehensive explanation with visual aids. Too passive. Draft 2. Hey Patterson family. Troy asked me to share our relationship update with everyone. Here's the full story. Too misleading. Draft 3. Hello. I noticed some comments about Troy and Astrid this weekend. Before rumors start, here are the facts about why I wasn't at the wedding and what's been happening in our relationship. Everything is documented with dates and sources. Professional, clear, honest, perfect. I saved the message. Didn't send it yet. Timing would be everything. 2 p.m. My phone rang. Troy, I answered. Hey, how was the wedding? It was great. Amazing. Listen, I'm at SFO waiting for my flight and I really need to know what happened with our account. Joy, there's only half the money there. Right. I withdrew my half on Friday. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, you withdrew $21,000? $21,500, my exact contribution over 18 months. The remaining $21,500 is yours. But that was our money, for our future. I laughed. Actually laughed. Troy, I found your private savings account. The one where you've been transferring $500 every month for 8 months while depositing the same amount into our joint account. So let's not talk about our money when you've been building a separate financial future. Another silence. How did you... That's different. That was for a surprise. What surprise? A surprise breakup? A surprise new life with Astrid? What? No. Joy, you're being crazy right now. Crazy. There it was. The word men use when women catch them. I'm being factual. I withdrew my contribution. You kept yours? We're even. We're not even. I needed that money this weekend. For what? It doesn't matter. The point is, you should have talked to me first. Like you talked to me before opening a secret savings account? Or before spending 6 months emotionally reconnecting with your ex? Or before doing a choreographed dance with her at a wedding I was uninvited from? The dance was just fun. You're reading into things. Troy, your mother called Astrid lovely in the family group chat. Your grandmother complimented her. Your uncle called you two a beautiful couple. In a chat that includes me. Your actual fiancé. They didn't mean it like that. Then how did they mean it? I don't know. Look, my flight's boarding. We'll talk when I get home. Sure. See you at the apartment. I hung up before he could correct me. Before he could say, wait, are you at the apartment? Because I wanted that moment of discovery to hit him at full force. 3:30 p.m. I met Marnie at Mozart's Coffee on Lake Austin. Outdoor seating, perfect weather, celebratory atmosphere. He called you crazy, Marnie said. It wasn't a question. Took him less than 5 minutes. Classic deflection. Did you tell him about the messages? Not yet. I want him to walk into that empty apartment first. Let him sit with that reality before I show him I know everything. Marnie pulled out her phone. Okay, so legally speaking, you're completely protected. Joint account, equal access. You took your half. Apartment was his name only. You gave written notice. The messages are his own words, not obtained illegally. If he tries anything legal, he has no ground to stand on. And the family group chat? If I send the presentation there? It's a private family chat you're legitimately part of. You're sharing factual information about your own relationship. Unless you make threats or false statements, there's nothing he can do. She grinned. Joy, you built an airtight case. He's going to walk into that apartment, find you gone, realize you know everything, and have absolutely no recourse. It's beautiful. 4 p.m. I drove past our old apartment. Troy's Accord wasn't in the parking lot yet. I sat there for a moment, looking at the second-floor window. 14 months of my life in that space. 14 months of cooking dinners he barely noticed, of cleaning messes he didn't see, of being the safe choice while he dreamed about someone else. I pulled out my phone, added one final slide to the presentation. Slide 27. P.S. Troy, the apartment rent is due on the 1st. It's $118.50. Good luck. 5:30 p.m. Back at my studio, I ordered Thai food from Thai Fresh. Pad CEW, spring rolls, mango sticky rice. $43. I didn't check my bank account first. Didn't calculate if I could afford it. Just ordered it. Because that's what freedom tastes like. Pad CEW without guilt. 6:45 p.m. Flight tracker showed Troy's plane had landed. I watched the little airplane icon touch down at Austin Bergstrom. Estimated arrival at the apartment. 7:30, accounting for baggage claim and traffic. 7 p.m. I poured wine, the good kind this time. $15 bottle from Whole Foods. Called myself fancy. 7:15 p.m. I opened the family group chat, read through the weekend messages again, 83 messages total. Not one person had asked about me. 7:28. My phone buzzed. Text from Troy. Where are you? He was home. He'd found the empty apartment. Me. Moved out Friday. Check the kitchen table. Troy. What do you mean moved out? Troy. Joy. What is happening? Troy. Did you really take all your stuff? Troy. Where are you staying? Troy. We need to talk right now. I turned my phone face down. Took a bite of Pad CU. Let him sit in that panic for a while. 8 p.m. 17 missed calls from Troy. 12 more texts ranging from confused to angry to pleading. The last one. I read your note. I don't understand. Can we please just talk like adults? I picked up my phone. Typed, adults don't have secret bank accounts. Adults don't emotionally cheat. Adults don't let their families disrespect their partners. Check your email and check the family group chat in about 30 seconds. I attached the PDF presentation to an email. Subject line. Your question about the bank account, sent to Troy at 8:02 p.m. Then I opened the Patterson family group chat. Posted my prepared message at 8:03 p.m. Hello. I noticed some comments about Troy and Astrid this weekend. Before rumors start, here are the facts about why I wasn't at the wedding and what's been happening in our relationship. Everything is documented with dates and sources. Attached the same PDF. 27 slides of pure, unfiltered truth. Sent. 8:04 p.m. I watched the read receipts appear. One by one. Not immediately. People were winding down their Sunday evenings, checking phones casually. But they were opening it. 8:07 p.m. My phone buzzed. Troy calling. I declined it. Text from Troy. Joy. Please don't send that to my family. Too late. Already sent. Already being read. I opened a bottle of sparkling water, toasted myself in the mirror. The presentation was out there now. Troy was reading through his own words, his own financial decisions, his own family's disrespect. And in living rooms across Austin and beyond, 43 members of the Patterson family were discovering exactly why I hadn't been at that wedding. Tomorrow morning would bring reactions. Tomorrow afternoon would bring consequences. But tonight I'd let the truth do its work while I enjoyed my $15 wine and the profound satisfaction of knowing I'd documented everything perfectly. My phone buzzed. Troy calling again. I blocked his number. Another buzz. Text from an unknown number. Probably Troy using someone else's phone. We can fix this. Me. Nothing's broken, Troy. Everything's finally exactly how it should be. I opened Instagram. Posted a photo of my new studio's balcony view with downtown Austin glowing in the background. Caption, new chapter, new view, new everything. Within minutes, comments rolled in from my friends. Heart emojis, you go girl messages, questions about what happened, and one comment from Marnie. Chapter 1 was prologue. Chapter 2 is where the magic happens. I smiled. Tomorrow, the Patterson family would wake up to their comprehensive explanation. Tomorrow, the entire social circle would start connecting dots. But tonight belonged to me and my $15 wine and the profound satisfaction of perfect timing. Revenge isn't a dish best served cold. It's a PowerPoint best served simultaneously to the source and the audience. Monday, June 17th. Judgment Day arrived with sunshine and zero mercy. 7 a.m., I woke up to notifications exploding. The Patterson family group chat had gone nuclear overnight. I opened it cautiously. After I'd sent the presentation at 8 p.m. Sunday, the messages had started slowly, people finishing dinner, putting kids to bed, finally checking their phones. But between 9 p.m. and midnight, all 43 family members had apparently read every single slide. The first wave of reactions had been time-stamped around 9:30 p.m. Sunday. Troy's cousin Marcus at 9:34 p.m. Wait, what? Simone at 9:41 p.m. Joy, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Troy told me you couldn't come because of work. Work? He'd told his cousin I'd chosen work over her wedding. Then the dam had broken around 10 p.m. Diane at 10:08 p.m. Troy Patterson, you call me immediately. Linda at 10:15 p.m. I feel sick. Joy, those messages are real? Multiple family members asking for verification, expressing shock, apologizing. And Troy had gone completely silent after his initial panicked texts to me. No responses in the family chat. No defenses. Just digital silence while his family processed 27 slides of documentation. 7:15 a.m. Monday. New messages were still coming in as family members on the East Coast woke up. Uncle Richard at 7:12 a.m. Joy, I called you and Astrid a beautiful couple in that group chat. In front of you. I'm disgusted with myself and with Troy for putting us all in that position. Aunt Linda at 7:18 a.m. The fact that Troy let his entire family disrespect Joy while he played house with his ex is unforgivable. Grandmother Dorothy at 7:23 a.m. I raised you better than this, Troy Michael Patterson. The full name from Grandma. That was serious. 7:30 a.m. My phone rang. Unknown number. Joy? This is Diane, Troy's mother. Her voice was tight. I just want you to know I've been up since 10 p.m. reading your presentation. Multiple times. I owe you an enormous apology. I had no idea he was messaging Astrid like that, or that he'd lied about why you weren't at the wedding. Diane, you didn't know. I should have known. A mother should know when her son is behaving badly. And I enabled it by commenting on how lovely he and Astrid looked, in a group chat that included you, his fiancé. She paused. I'm horrified at myself and at him. 7:45 a.m. Text from unknown number. Joy, this is Astrid. Can we talk? I stared at that message. Astrid Winters, the woman who'd spent 6 months emotionally reconnecting with my fiancé, wanted to talk. Me. Talk. Astrid. Simone just called me. Forwarded me your presentation. Joy, I had no idea Troy was still engaged. He told me you two had broken up in April. That you were just living together until the lease ended. I read that 3 times. Troy had told Astrid we'd broken up. Had told her I was essentially a roommate he was phasing out. Me. We got engaged December 20th. 8 months ago. Never broke up. Still wearing my ring when he left for your wedding. Astrid. I'm going to be sick. Joy, I swear I didn't know. The messages. We were flirting. I know that now. But he framed it like he was single and just being cautious about jumping into something new. He said his last relationship, you, had ended badly and he wanted to take things slow. Me. Did anything physical happen at the wedding? Long pause. Typing bubbles appeared and disappeared 3 times. Finally, we kissed, Saturday night after the reception. He said he'd been waiting years to do that again. He made it sound romantic. Now I know he was cheating on you. There it was. Confirmation. Troy had kissed Astrid. Had physically cheated, not just emotionally. Me. Do you have screenshots of him saying we'd broken up? That I was just a roommate? 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed. 3 screenshots. Troy telling Astrid in late April that Joy and I ended things, and we're just coexisting until I find a new place, and I'm finally free to see where this goes with us. I saved them immediately. Added them to the presentation as slides 28, 29, and 30. 8:15 a.m. I updated the PDF and posted the new version in the family group chat. Update. Additional information from Astrid confirming Troy lied to everyone involved. 3 new slides with documentation. He told Astrid we'd broken up in April while still engaged to me. 8:20 a.m. The chat exploded again. Simone at 8:22 a.m. He kissed her? At my wedding? While engaged to you? Diane at 8:24 a.m. Troy Michael Patterson, if you don't call me in the next hour, I'm booking the first flight back to Austin and we will have this conversation face to face. Marcus at 8:26 a.m. This is actually insane. Bro, you're genuinely terrible. 8:35 a.m. Troy finally responded in the group chat. This is a private matter between Joy and me. She had no right to air our relationship problems to my entire family. This is vindictive and inappropriate. I typed back immediately. You involved your entire family when you let them publicly comment on how lovely you and Astrid looked together in a group chat that included me. You involved them when you lied to Simone about why I wasn't at the wedding. You involved them when you used family events to reconnect with your ex while lying to everyone. I'm just providing the context you deliberately withheld. Diane at 8:37 a.m. She has every right, Troy. You humiliated her publicly. She's responding with facts. That's fair. 8:45 a.m. My phone rang. Marnie. Joy. Tell me you're seeing this. Front row seat to the destruction. His own mother is defending you against him. His grandmother used his full name. That's nuclear-level family disappointment, Marnie laughed. The cousin Simone just edited her Instagram wedding post. Did you see? I opened Instagram. Simone's latest post from the wedding had a new caption. Previously, best day ever with the best people. Now, best day ever. Special thanks to the bridesmaids and groomsmen who showed up with integrity and honesty. The comments were already filling up with speculation. 9 a.m. More messages flooded the family chat as West Coast relatives woke up and caught up on the overnight drama. Troy's aunt from California at 9:03 a.m. Just read all 30 slides. Troy, I'm ashamed to be related to you right now. A cousin I'd never met at 9:12 a.m. Joy, I don't know you, but you deserve so much better than this. 9:30 a.m. Troy texted from yet another number. You've made your point. Can we please talk in person? This has gone too far. Me. Nothing's gone too far. Everything is exactly as far as it needs to go. You lied to me, to Astrid, to your family, and to yourself. I'm just declining to help you hide it anymore. Troy. My own family won't talk to me. Simone blocked me on everything. My mom is threatening to fly to Austin just to yell at me in person. Me. Sounds like they're showing you the same consideration you showed me. Troy. What do you want? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry, I messed up. Can we move forward now? I actually laughed out loud. Move forward. Like 6 months of calculated betrayal could be erased with, I'm sorry. Me. I don't want anything from you, Troy. I already took what was mine. The money, the truth, my self-respect. You keep the apartment, the rent you can't afford alone, and the reputation you earned. 10 a.m. Email notification from Wells Fargo. Troy had requested to close the joint account. The remaining $21,500 would transfer to his individual account within 5 business days. Fine by me. That money was his. We were finally, completely even. 10:30 a.m. Marnie called again. Diane reached out to me. Troy's mom? She got my number from someone in the family chat. Asked if you needed legal representation in case Troy tries to claim you stole money or defamed him. She offered to pay for a lawyer to protect you against her own son. I sat down on my balcony. She offered to pay for my defense against Troy. She feels terrible. Said this isn't the first time Troy's done something like this. Apparently, he had a high school girlfriend he cheated on, blamed her for being too controlling when she found out. Diane believed him then. She's not making that mistake again. 11 a.m. I drove to Hopdoddy to meet Marnie for a celebratory lunch. Burgers and truffle fries felt appropriate. Check Instagram, Marnie said as soon as I sat down. Troy had posted a story. Black screen, white text. Going through a difficult time. Please respect my privacy. The replies were brutal, friends calling him out. Respect like you respected Joy? And maybe try honesty for once. Noon. Back at my studio, I checked the family group chat one more time. Someone had created a new chat. Same 42 people. Everyone except Troy. First message from Simone. New chat. Clean slate. No liars welcome. Second message from Diane. Joy, you're always welcome at family events. Troy is not until he gets serious help and makes genuine amends. 1 p.m. Astrid posted on Instagram. Photo of herself on a hiking trail. Caption. Learning to trust my instincts again. Also learning that just friends with an ex who's engaged is never just friends. Growth hurts, but ignorance hurts worse. Comments flooded in, including one from Simone. Proud of you for handling this with grace. I commented, same boat, clearer view now. Here's to better questions and honest answers. Astrid replied within minutes. Joy, I'm so sorry I didn't ask the right questions sooner. Thank you for the truth. 2 p.m. My phone buzzed. Troy, from another new number. I lost everything because of you. I stared at that text for a long moment, then typed, No, Troy. You lost everything because of your own choices. I just stopped pretending those choices didn't matter. There's a difference. Blocked, deleted, done. 3 p.m. I looked around my studio, my space, my furniture. My life rebuilt in 72 hours. No Troy, no lies, no performance of being the understanding fiancé while being systematically disrespected. My phone buzzed one last time. Message from Diane. Joy, I know this probably doesn't matter much coming from me, but you handled this with more grace and intelligence than Troy deserved. You're going to do amazing things. Thank you for not letting him get away with it. I smiled, typed back, Thank you for holding him accountable. That matters more than you know. 4 p.m. I posted on Instagram. Photo of my balcony at golden hour with a glass of wine. Caption. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to carry someone else's lies anymore. Update? Thriving. The comments came fast. Friends celebrating. People asking what happened. And buried in there, one from Marnie. To documentation, boundaries, and knowing your worth. The Holy Trinity. 5 p.m. I opened my laptop. The blog I'd been planning, Receipts and Reckonings, needed its first post. I started typing. Title, The Day I Chose Myself, A Guide to Documentation and Departure. The words flowed. Everything I'd learned. Every mistake I wouldn't repeat. Every red flag I'd ignored. Every moment I'd chosen peace over self-respect. And every single step I'd taken to reclaim both. By 6 p.m., I had 1,500 words. By 7 p.m., the post was live. By 8 p.m., it had been shared 47 times. Women I'd never met were commenting. I needed this. This is my story, too. Thank you for the roadmap. Turns out my worst relationship was becoming someone else's survival guide. Troy got Denver, therapy, and consequences he'd spent 31 years avoiding. I got a growing platform, $21,500 in savings, and the profound satisfaction of knowing I'd burned it all down with nothing but truth and perfect documentation. Seemed like a fair trade to me. 3 months later, September 20th, Austin had shifted from unbearable summer heat to that perfect fall weather where you can actually sit outside without melting. I was on my balcony with coffee, watching Downtown Wake Up, when my phone buzzed. Marnie, have you seen Troy's LinkedIn? I don't follow Troy anywhere. That's kind of the point of moving on. He updated his profile. New job. New city. I opened LinkedIn despite myself. Troy Patterson's profile showed a recent update. Excited to announce I've accepted a position as Junior Financial Analyst at Denver Metro Solutions. New city, new chapter. Junior Analyst. He'd been a Senior Analyst in Austin. This was a demotion disguised as a fresh start. The comments tried to sound supportive, but I could read between the lines. Troy had torpedoed his Austin life so thoroughly that relocating to Colorado with a step backward was his only option. Denver's lovely this time of year, I told Marnie. Very far from Texas. Perfect distance. His mom commented on the post. Said she's proud of him for getting help and making changes. I scrolled down. Diane had written, "Proud of you for doing the work, son. Therapy is hard but necessary. Keep going." So Troy had actually followed through with therapy. Interesting. Growth looked painful on him, but at least it was happening. My life, meanwhile, had become unrecognizable in the best possible way. The studio apartment I'd rushed into that frantic Friday in June turned out to be exactly what I needed. $750 monthly meant I was saving $350 compared to the $1,100 I'd been paying at Troy's place. Over 3 months, that was over $1,000 in savings just from housing alone, plus the $21,500 I'd withdrawn, still sitting in a high-yield savings account, earning interest, untouched, except for a weekend trip to New Orleans I'd taken in August. Work had exploded in the right direction. That campaign I'd been presenting when Simone uninvited me landed the client, resulted in a promotion to senior marketing strategist in July with a 15% raise. Turns out when you're not spending emotional energy managing someone else's ego, you have a lot more bandwidth for actual career advancement. The Patterson family had stayed in touch. Weirdly, Diane texted every few weeks asking how I was doing, sending articles about marketing she thought I'd find interesting, inviting me to coffee. I'd gone twice. We'd sat at Mozart's Coffee talking about everything from work to family dynamics to Troy's childhood patterns that explained so much about his adult dysfunction. "I coddled him," she'd said during our second coffee. "Made excuses. Let him blame others for his mistakes. I created that problem and then acted shocked when he destroyed something good. I'd told her that Troy was a grown man responsible for his own choices, but I appreciated her accountability. We'd left as something like friends. Strange how losing a fiancé could gain you an almost mother-in-law who actually respected you. Simone and I had grabbed brunch twice. She'd shown me her wedding photos, the professional ones, not the Instagram disasters, and we'd laughed about how obvious Troy and Astrid's chemistry had been in retrospect. "Every single photo of them looks like an engagement shoot," she'd said. Meanwhile, Blake and I look like friends who accidentally wandered into someone else's wedding. Her marriage was solid, though. Blake turned out to be genuinely kind, funny, and the type of guy who'd driven 3 hours to return Simone's forgotten phone charger during their honeymoon, the kind of small gesture that revealed character. Troy would have told her to buy a new one. Astrid and I had developed the strangest friendship. We'd met for coffee in July. Awkward at first, then cathartic. Two women who'd been lied to by the same man, comparing notes like scientists discovering they'd been researching the same phenomenon from different angles. "He told me you were controlling," Astrid had said, "that you tracked his phone and accused him of cheating constantly, made you sound paranoid." "He told me you were desperate," I'd countered, "that you'd been chasing him for years and he was just being polite by staying in touch." We'd stared at each other across the table at Houndstooth Coffee, then simultaneously started laughing. The projection. The manipulation, the sheer audacity of painting both of us as the problem when he was the common denominator. Astrid was seeing someone new now, a graphic designer named Marcus, not Troy's cousin, different Marcus, who she'd met at a community art event. From her Instagram, he looked like the kind of guy who brought her coffee at work and remembered her friends' names. Baseline decent human behavior that felt revolutionary after Troy. I wasn't seeing anyone. Hadn't even tried. Didn't feel like a loss, though. Felt like I was finally getting to know myself without performing for someone else's comfort. Turns out I liked my own company. I could spend entire Saturdays reading on my balcony without someone sighing dramatically about being bored. Could cook elaborate meals or eat cereal for dinner without judgment. Could make plans without checking if they conflicted with someone else's schedule. Freedom tasted like spontaneity and smelled like expensive candles I bought without guilt. The most unexpected development? I'd started that side project in August. The blog, Receipts and Reckonings, about financial literacy and emotional intelligence in relationships. How to protect yourself. How to spot red flags. How to document everything. When to walk away. It had started as therapy, writing out everything I'd learned, but other women started finding it, sharing their stories, asking questions. The blog had grown to 15,000 followers in 6 weeks. 2 literary agents had reached out about turning it into a book. A book. about my catastrophic relationship with Troy Patterson, reframed as a manual for recognizing patterns and protecting yourself. The irony was delicious. Yesterday I'd received an email. Subject line: amends. From Troy. I'd stared at it for a full minute before opening. Joy, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. My therapist suggested I write this as part of my recovery work, with no expectation of response. I was wrong. About everything. I lied to you, to Astrid, to my family. I prioritized my comfort over your dignity. I took your contributions for granted, emotional and financial. I blamed you for reacting to my actions instead of taking responsibility for those actions. You deserved honesty, respect, and partnership. I gave you none of those things. I'm sorry. Not because I want you back, or because I think sorry fixes anything. Just because you deserve to hear it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found someone who treats you the way I should have. Troy. I'd read it twice. No excuses buried in the apology. No "but you also" deflections. No requests for forgiveness or reconciliation. Just accountability. I'd written back one sentence. Thank you for saying that. I hope Denver treats you well. Then I'd deleted his email and moved on with my afternoon. Because here's what I'd learned in 3 months of reconstruction. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you give yourself. Troy's apology was nice. It changed nothing about my life except confirming that the work I'd done, the documentation, the boundaries, the walking away, had been exactly right. This morning, September 20th, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment in the same building. Upgrade from the studio. Bigger kitchen, actual bedroom, rent of $950 that I could easily afford with my new salary. Still $200 less monthly than what I'd been paying at Troy's place. Moving day was October 1st. I'd also booked a flight to Italy for November. 2 weeks. Solo travel. Rome, Florence, Venice. The trip I'd suggested to Troy last year that he'd vetoed because Europe is overrated and expensive. Turned out Europe was neither when you weren't funding someone else's secret savings account. My phone buzzed. Text from Diane. Troy told me he emailed you an apology. I didn't ask him to. Just want you to know that. Hope you're well. Me. I'm great. Really great. Tell him Denver's lucky to have him. Because I meant it. Not sarcastically. Troy was doing the work, facing consequences. Growing up at 31 because he'd finally run out of people willing to enable him. That was good. That was necessary. And it was no longer my problem or my concern. I finished my coffee, opened my laptop. The book proposal was due to agents next week. Chapter 1. The day I chose myself was already written. Chapter 7. Why documentation saves lives practically wrote itself. The conclusion was still being drafted, but it would be something about how the worst thing that happens to you can become the foundation for the best thing you build. My phone buzzed again. Marnie. Brunch Sunday? I have news. Me. Always. Magnolia Cafe? Marnie. Where else? 11 a.m. Bring your appetite. I'm buying mimosas to celebrate. I smiled. She'd somehow already heard about the book agents. That's what best friends do. I looked around my studio one last time. In 11 days I'd be packing again, moving down the hall to a bigger space. In 7 weeks I'd be in Italy. In 6 months, maybe holding a book contract. And Troy? Troy would be in Denver, starting over, learning lessons he should have learned a decade ago. The difference? I was moving forward. He was catching up. I closed my laptop, grabbed my keys. Thursday morning yoga class at Black Swan started in 30 minutes, and I'd promised myself I'd actually go this week instead of just paying for the membership. As I locked my door, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. 29 years old, single, thriving, free. Funny how the worst breakup of my life had led to the best version of myself. Turns out you don't need closure from the person who hurt you. You just need distance, documentation, and the confidence to know you made the right call. And maybe a really good PowerPoint presentation, because revenge isn't about destruction. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to make someone else comfortable. It's about taking your half of the savings account and your whole sense of self-worth and walking away while they're busy pretending everything's fine. Troy got Denver and therapy and a junior analyst position. I got Italy and a book deal and the profound peace of knowing I'd never settle for safe again. Seemed like a fair trade to me.